Sorry about that. An ad. Oh, wait, what's this? The old Soviet national anthem. Great for memes. So we're gonna focus mostly on the Soviet Union to study, our introduction to totalitarianism, and so a couple of interchangeable terms. So we've talked about Russia in the past, right? And the czars and things like that. And we had that great project. I think it was Nora and Mikhail had with Mother Russia. So after World War I, remember we said the Communist Revolution took over Russia and Russia dropped out. Then they expand and take over a bunch of neighboring countries. So I wish I had the pen that worked here, but we're just going to have to do our best. The big country you see in red, where it says like Ruska Socialistica, blah, 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 that is Russia itself. But everything in red, including those countries to the south and then to the west, and that is the Soviet Union, which is the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, also called the USSR. So you might hear me say the Russians, the Soviets, the USSR. I'm pretty much meaning all this same thing. And look how big that landmass is. That's huge. Although for most of it in the middle, it's just ice and snow, but still, it's a lot of territory. So we talked about Karl Marx and how he came up with his theories as sort of a reaction or rejection of what was happening to the working class in the Industrial Revolution in England, and how the poor people were just living in the awful conditions. With Lenin, he takes Marx's ideas, and this is where we really turn, like, some of you had mentioned, what's the difference between socialism and communism? And it's very tricky. It depends who you ask. But on the right here, this is just pure communism, and this is Lenin. Lenin was the leader of the communist revolution that really formed the Soviet Union. So, whereas Marx said that the proletariat, the poor class, would have, this spontaneous revolution and just lead themselves, Lenin is like, no, they're all a bunch of stupid farmers, and they need professionals to lead them. So already, in trying to, get a better life for the people, it's like, yeah, but they're too stupid to know what to do themselves. And maybe because they were not in cities, right? Because Marx is looking at the cities of England, the Industrial Revolution there. In Russia, it's not industrial whatsoever until a little bit, until the 1930s and 40s. It's mostly all farmland. And so then, again, Marx with his pie in the sky ideas that would never ever work is like, oh, everyone will just own everything and share it, and we'll all rule together, and blah, blah, blah. Marx ignored human nature and greed and things like that completely. Lenin was at least a little more practical, and he's like, nope, we need to have a one-party system to enforce discipline and make sure that everyone goes along with the program. And to do that, hey, I'll be the dictator. How about that? So Lenin dies in 1924, and again, the Bolshevik Revolution, the Bolsheviks were the name of his party. That's sort of interchangeable at least in terms of this class, for the Communist Revolution of Russia. And so Lenin establishes the dictatorship of the Communist Party, and then he dies in 1924. And then we have Stalin rise to power. And Shannon, you know all this stuff because you wrote your paper all about this. So, well, you still have to watch the video. By 1928, Stalin has absolute political power. He either kills or exiles any of his opponents. Joseph Stalin wasn't even his real name. I forget what his original last name was, but Stalin means steel, or of steel. So it's kind of like, I am the man of steel. Look at this terrifying mustache. I am Stalin. He gave himself this nickname. Same thing with Lenin. I think Lenin means iron or some other kind of metal. I don't know. But all these dictators actually took different names for themselves. Okay. 1928, Stalin has absolute power over the Soviets. There's that mustache again. Mustache weak. I'm losing my mind. Okay, so again, and this happens, and we're going to see the same thing when Hitler rises to power. Once you get into power, kill everyone that you doubted or that had doubted you. Even if you're not sure if they're loyal or not, they're not going to be a threat if they're dead or if they're in jail. Stalin builds the police state, their phone, tapping people's phones to listen to conversations, opening people's mail to see correspondence, and the children were encouraged to tell on their parents. And then they have the gulag system, where if you got arrested by the secret police, what would typically happen, you just get a knock on the door, and they drag you away. Could be like in the middle of the night. You never knew when. If you didn't get killed while you were being tortured, and you gave them, let's say, the names of 10 people that are suspected to be disloyal to the country, then you might get off with a 10-year sentence out in Siberia, where it's freezing cold, doing hard labor. Maybe you can survive that, but often people died in these places called the gulags. And there was a whole chain of gulags in Siberia where people were just sent for having committed no crime. Remember, if you were sent there because you gave a list of names, sometimes people just got desperate and rattled off the names of people they knew. And the charges were completely unfounded. But Stalin actually had people, his the people that worked for him. He's like, okay, let's take this city, North Halden. I don't know how many people live there. I'm just going to make it up. Let's say there's 20,000 people in North Halden. You know what? There's probably a good chance that like 200 of them are secretly plotting against me. So in the next year, you need to go arrest 200 people. And then they would come up with these numbers for the different cities just off like projections and statistics with no actual evidence. And so many people's lives were ruined or ended this way. I will link to this video of gulags so you can get a better explanation. And then the Great Purge. So in 1934, Stalin starts turning against his own friends. In 1937, anyone again who survived the 1928 killings, who Stalin thinks is a threat to him, and some of these are like his formerly good friends and the revolutionaries that he worked with in the Bolshevik Revolution, executed. And we'll close it up here because Stalin was like, before Photoshop existed, there was Joseph Stalin. So here's a picture of him. And then the two guys, the one on the left and the one on the right, executed. So what do? Just change it up a little bit. Have it drawn instead of the photo. Because again, we don't really have Photoshop. Although they did doctor photos also. And then the guy, probably because his mustache wasn't that good, he gets eliminated. And we have just this picture of Stalin. And these pictures survived, but most of them would be destroyed once someone died. They basically would erase the memory and be like, who? Joe? No, not Joseph Stalin. Jimmy? I don't know any Jimmy. What? You said I was best friends with him for like 10 years and we worked together? I don't know who you're talking about. To the gulag for you. Okay, so by 38, Stalin's responsible for the deaths of 8 to 13 million of his own people. Great leader. And if you weren't killed, you were going to be sent to the labor camps called the gulags. I think this is a good time to sort of end this video so that you can watch the gulag video. I wanted to get through this whole thing today. Boy, did I overestimate things. Alrighty. Anyway, until next time.